Cheetah gave birth to 5 cubs. Then vet says, "This is not a cub." The birth of Luna cubs was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a moment that everybody at the wildlife sanctuary had been looking forward to for months. But it would turn out to be anything but joyous, because as the babies were starting to be born, everybody could see that there was something off about them. And the vet, Dr. Calvin, was the first to realize the truth. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming stories. Everybody at the sanctuary was completely stunned by what was happening, and none more than Robert, the wildlife employee who had been responsible for the main care that the cheetah had been getting. Ever since she had gotten pregnant, Robert had handed off care for most other animals under his control and put his sole focus on Luna. He had been looking forward to the birth of Theory cubs for months now, as it felt like his reward for spending so much of his time on here. He even felt like he had built up a really good connection with the animal. But now that he finally saw the products of Luna's labor, he did not even know what to think anymore. Suddenly, the director of the wildlife sanctuary barged into the room. The man was named Stephen, and everybody there disliked him. He was much too business-focused for a kind and caring organization such as the Wildlife Sanctuary. Yet he looked very stressed and had his mobile phone to his ear. Then he said something that shocked Robert. Stephen started screaming that everybody but the vet assisting the birth of Luna's babies needed to leave the room right now, no exceptions. Robert tried to plead with Stephen that he was Luna's main carer and she trusted him, but Stephen did not want to hear it. He looked Robert in the eyes and repeated himself, "No exceptions." Robert patiently waited at the door for 2 hours. He heard a lot of commotion in the room and was deadly curious as to what could be going on in there. He just hoped and prayed that Luna and her babies, whatever those could be, were all right. An exhausted-looking vet made his way out of the room and was surprised to see this Robert was still waiting out there. Robert was immediately up in his face, demanding to know what was going on. He even looked over the vet's shoulder but was very surprised to see that the room he left behind was empty. Where did Luna go? The vet could not look Robert in the eye after he asked that question. The man clearly hesitated a lot and then told Robert that he could not tell him in anything. Stephen had demanded from him that he keep everything that happened in that room a secret, and if he disobeyed the director, he would be fired on the spot or even sued. Robert could not believe it. Things were only getting stranger. The vet did reveal to Robert that the operating room had another exit where Luna had been transported out, and he revealed that she was now no longer in the facility. She and her babies had been moved about half an hour ago. Robert immediately ran outside, hoping to still see Luna, or at least learn more about what was happening exactly. But they were, of course, long gone. It was clear to Robert that the only person who could give him any answers was Stephen, and he was nowhere to be found anymore. But maybe there was somebody else who could help. Out of the corner of his eyes, Robert noticed the gardener of the sanctuary waving him over. The woman looked around to make sure that nobody could see them and then invited Robert into her tool shed. She asked him if he was looking for Luna, and of course, he confirmed this. She had been cutting some of the bushes when suddenly, a blacked-out truck arrived at the sanctuary. It stopped at the back entrance of the main building, and after that, things started to go really quickly. Nearly immediately after, a gurney was rolled out of the building with Luna and the babies on it. It was as if they were trying to hide something or someone. Robert's mind raced. Luna and her cubs were more than just animals under his care. They were beings he had grown to love. "I need to find out what's happening," he resolved, his jaw setting firmly. As he paced, a memory sparked in Robert's mind. The gardener had mentioned a black truck, and that could be a vital clue. The security cameras. They must have caught something. Later, in the dim light of the security room, Robert hunched over the monitors. His eyes intently scanned the grainy footage, searching for any glimpse of the mysterious truck. There. He paused the footage at the crucial moment, the truck's arrival. Its license plate was blurry, but it was a start. Back in the tool shed, the gardener handed Robert a scrap of paper. "I remembered the plate," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. Scribbled on it was the truck's number plate. Robert's heart raced. This was the break he needed. "You're incredible," he said, eyes shining with gratitude. With the number plate in hand, Robert hurried to the local police station. His urgency was palpable as he explained the situation, showing them the scribbled plate number. The officers listened intently, their expressions turning serious. "We'll look into this right away," they assured him. Robert felt a surge of hope. Finally, some real assistance. It didn't take long for the search to bear fruit. The police traced the truck back to a name that made Robert's blood run cold. It was registered to a close friend of Stephen. Why would Stephen involve his friend in this? Robert pondered, a sinking feeling in his stomach. Confronted by the police, Stephen's friend appeared uneasy but cooperative. "I was just asked to drive the truck, nothing more," he claimed, his voice tinged with nervousness. He admitted to transporting Luna and the cubs, but insisted he knew nothing about their destination or Stephen's plans. Robert listened, frustration mounting. This was a lead, but it was clear they were only scratching the surface. In a dimly lit interrogation room, Stephen's friend finally broke his silence. "I did it for Stephen, drove them to a place he told me," he confessed, his eyes darting nervously. "I never asked questions, just did as I was told." Robert clenched his fists, realizing the depth of the betrayal. The place was secluded, hidden away, the friend continued. An old building, far from prying eyes. He described the remote location, a place that seemed designed to avoid detection. Robert's mind raced as he visualized the spot, but it was a place of secrets, likely chosen to conceal whatever was happening with Luna and her cubs. Despite his involvement, Steven's friend claimed ignorance about the fate of the animals, but he insisted, his hands trembling. The police pressed him, but it was clear he was telling the truth. He was just a pawn in a larger game, unaware of the final destination or purpose. The mystery around Luna's disappearance only deepened. Determined, Robert and the police team began planning their approach to the secluded building. Every officer was briefed, maps were studied, and strategies were formed. The building, hidden away in an overgrown area, posed challenges, but they were ready. "You will find Luna and the cubs," Robert vowed, feeling a surge of determination. The investigation was now a rescue mission. The day of the raid dawned with a tense air of anticipation. The team, armed with search warrants and heavy hearts, approached the building. Robert's heart pounded in his chest as they prepared to enter. Inside, he hoped, were the answers they desperately sought, and Luna and her cubs, alive and well. As the first light of dawn broke, the police team, accompanied by Robert, converged on the secluded building. The air was thick with tension, each member bracing for what they might encounter. Robert's mind was a whirlwind of worry and hope. They moved in swiftly, determined yet cautious, knowing that every second counted. The building was a labyrinth of shadows and silence. The team moved methodically, clearing each room with precision. In a dim, isolated room, they found her. Luna, looking stressed but physically unharmed, paced restlessly. The discovery of Luna alone deepened the mystery. Where were the cubs? The team searched the building thoroughly but found no trace of them. Robert's mind raced with possibilities, each more troubling than the last. The absence of the cubs was an alarming puzzle, casting a shadow over the initial relief of finding Luna. With Luna safe but the cubs still missing, the team turned to gathering evidence. They scoured the room for clues, documenting everything. And each piece of evidence was meticulously recorded, hoping it would lead them to the cubs. Robert watched, feeling a mix of frustration and determination. The puzzle was complex, but he was resolved to solve it for Luna and her missing offspring. In the aftermath of finding Luna, the team gathered, a sense of urgency palpable in the air. Where could the cubs be? They pondered aloud. Robert, standing with furrowed brows, voiced his fears and theories, but without concrete evidence, the cubs' whereabouts remained a distressing enigma. As hours turned into a day, the urgency to find the cubs intensified. Robert felt the weight of each passing hour. He knew they had to act fast. The cubs' survival might depend on their next move. Amidst the search, small but significant leads began to emerge, subtle hints that suggested the cubs might still be nearby. These clues, hidden in the shadows of the building and its surroundings, offered a faint trail to follow. Robert's hope flickered as they pieced together these minor details, hoping they'd lead to something bigger. Just when the situation seemed bleak, a new lead surfaced. One of the officers found a series of receipts from a nearby town, purchases that seemed out of place. "This could be it," Robert exclaimed, his voice tinged with a cautious optimism. The discovery rekindled the team's hope and redirected their focus, providing a potential path to the missing cubs. They spread out, covering more ground, each member keenly aware of the importance of their mission. Robert led the charge, his determination unwavering. The team moved with purpose, tracing the trail suggested by the clues they had pieced together, each step bringing them closer to finding the cubs. The breakthrough in the investigation came swiftly. Stephen, the sanctuary director, was apprehended by the police on charges of illegal animal trafficking. His arrest, executed with precision, sent shockwaves through the sanctuary. Robert watched as Stephen was led away in handcuffs, a mix of satisfaction and apprehension in his eyes. The key player in the mystery was now in custody, but many questions remained unanswered. Stephen sat in the interrogation room, his expression unreadable, deflecting the investigators' questions despite mounting evidence. Outside, Robert paced anxiously, consumed by worry about the missing cubs. As the police dismantled Stephen's network, they uncovered a vast wildlife trafficking operation, far beyond the sanctuary's walls. A breakthrough came when one of Stephen's accomplices, under pressure, began to cooperate. The investigators followed a trail of suspicious financial transactions, revealing the full extent of Stephen's illicit dealings. With this new lead, they worked tirelessly, inching closer to finding the cubs before it was too late. The accomplice, now cooperating with the police, began to share critical details. He spoke of the Cheetah babies, recounting how they were moved under the veil of secrecy. Robert listened intently, piecing together the information. With each piece of information, the team felt they were drawing closer to the cubs. Maps were laid out, routes traced, and plans formulated. The accomplice's testimony had given them a direction, a tangible lead to follow. They were on the cusp of a significant discovery, and the atmosphere was charged with cautious optimism. Every hour that passed could mean the difference between life and death for the cubs. The stakes were high, and there was no room for error in the race against time. As the layers of the investigation were peeled back, a startling plan came to light. Stephen had been orchestrating a complex scheme, but the details of his ultimate goal remained murky. The hints of illegal breeding and the potential for lucrative gains were whispered among the team. Robert's heart sank as he considered the implications for Luna and her cubs, entangled in a plot driven by greed and disregard for animal welfare. The grim truth began to emerge. The breeding program, shrouded in secrecy, had been riddled with ethical and scientific shortcomings. It became evident that the endeavor was less about conservation and more about profit. The realization hit Robert hard. The fate of the cubs had been sealed by reckless ambition. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on the team as they processed the depth of Stephen's betrayal. Finally, a breakthrough came. The cubs' location was discovered, a secluded site far from the prying eyes of the law and ethical scrutiny. The team scrambled to assemble the details, plotting the quickest route to the site. Robert's focus was singular: to reach the cubs as swiftly as possible. The tension was palpable. They were so close to ending the harrowing search. With the location pinpointed, the team set off in a race against time. The drive was tense, each mile bringing them closer to the unknown condition of the cubs. But the urgency of the mission drove them forward, faster and more determined. The team arrived at the location, their hearts pounding in anticipation. They prepared to enter, bracing for what they might find. The team, now inside the building, was met with a somber reality. The cubs, the innocent subjects of a misguided experiment, were stillborn. The air was heavy with sorrow as Robert and the team confronted the tragic outcome. The dreams of nurturing and protecting these new lives had been cruelly snatched away, leaving behind a painful void filled with unanswered questions and what-ifs. Robert stood, grief-stricken, in the quiet room that held the remnants of his hopes. The attachment he had formed with the unborn cubs, nurtured through months of anticipation and care, lay shattered around him. He grappled with a deep sense of loss, the harsh reality of the cubs' fate a stark contrast to the future he had envisioned for them under his watchful care. Back at the police station, Stephen was processed for his crimes. The evidence of his illegal activities, now undeniable, paved the way for serious legal repercussions. As he faced the consequences of his actions, the sanctuary began its own process of healing and rebuilding. The stain of his actions would linger, but the law was clear in its judgment. In the days that followed, the sanctuary staff came together in shared grief. Luna, back in the safety of her familiar surroundings, received extra care and attention, so the court was unyielding in its verdict against Stephen. Charged with illegal animal trafficking and other related offenses, he received a sentence commensurate with the severity of his crimes. Gradually, Luna began to show signs of recovery, her resilience a testament to the sanctuary's loving care and the indomitable spirit of nature. The story concluded with a somber yet hopeful note. Amidst the grief, there was a growing sense of resilience and a renewed commitment to wildlife protection. The sanctuary, though shadowed by past events, looked forward with determination. Robert, standing amidst the green expanses of the sanctuary, felt a quiet hope. In the enduring spirit of nature and the unwavering dedication of the team, a brighter future was being forged. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another unbelievable tale like this one.